Hey guys, UltraUltra here. Welcome back to the channel. Super excited to be bringing you my settings walkthrough video here for the 2025 LG 45-inch ultra-wide OLED. This is the 5K 2K GX9. Been doing several videos on it at this point, but want to now actually get my first settings video out so you know exactly how I have my monitor set up both on my desktop and of course the actual monitor settings. Now, again, I do this for every monitor I test. So just for if you happen to be new to the channel or checking this out, I make POV gaming videos on the monitors I test. The whole point of this video is that it's actually linked in the pinned comment of every video I do on the monitor. So again, just if maybe if you're seeing this for the first time, go check out my channel. Just in general, if you followed the link through one of the pinned comments, welcome. So we're going to go through a few things here. Again, I'm going to first show the desktop settings here, and then go into monitor settings. Now, first things first, as it relates to desktop settings, is of course I have HDR on. Of course, bring up my Windows display settings here. You can see that. Also, it's worth noting just in terms of the actual, while I'm enjoying content on desktop in particular, SDR content brightness I have turned up to 90 here on the slider. And then I actually have been using Auto HDR more instead of RTX HDR just because this resolution is ultimately pretty much harder to drive than the 3440 by 1440 of the old one. So I am using Auto HDR now, really as more of my replacement for RTX HDR in any games that don't have an HDR implementation natively. Now, I also do have a color profile associated with this. I will show that here on screen as well. Now, I want to bring that up. So it's Windows 11, it's the HDR calibration tool. Now, I just want to show it here. I'm not going to finalize it. I just want you guys to see the brightness screens and how I have set them up. So the way I have done this is that obviously here for the first setting, the darkness light minimum luminance, I just all the way down to 0, right? That's 0. Now for the two brightness screens, maximum and now obviously the next one is just full frame luminance test. Both of these I set to 1300. Now the main reason I do this is because if for mainly for RTX HDR purposes, RTX HDR reads off of these two screens for the peak brightness slider. So I set these to 1300. I'm aware that the monitor clips before that. It clips around 600. Again, this is really just specifically for the a carryover to RTX HDR and that peak brightness slider. So both of these I actually end up setting to that 1300 for that purpose. So just so you guys can see it here. Now, most importantly, as this kind of obviously finishes up on, this is the last screen, which is color saturation. I, just like in last year's model, I set this to 60. I tend to be obviously someone who likes a more colorful picture. So for those who perhaps have been wondering how I even get that calibration, or if you're wondering what when you're watching my videos where that color comes from, this is one component of that, right? I set this to 60 here. Now I'm going to close this just because I don't want to actually finalize any of those settings. And again, I have this saved as my profile here. Now, aside from that, then, the one other desktop setting that I adjust is through the NVIDIA control panel. Now, you can do this through the NVIDIA app as well. That's how I'm going to show it here on screen. Again, you can do it in either way. It's where you adjust your desktop color settings either through either app. This is just easier to view on the camera, which is why I'm bringing it up through the NVIDIA app specifically. Now, if you're using the app, this would be in System and Displays, right, where you can go down to Color, where you can actually adjust those same color sliders that are on the Adjust Desktop Color settings in the NVIDIA control panel. Now, all of these are default. I don't adjust brightness, gamma, contrast, anything like that. The only one I do adjust is Digital Vibrance. Now, on the 2024 model of this monitor, I had this around 53, 54. Now, for this monitor to kind of get what I feel like is a similar, satisfying color, just performance for, again, to my liking. This is not with a calibration tool. Again, this is purely just visually what I like. I have this turned up slightly to 56. So again, for all videos, if you happen to have watched videos in the past of this monitor that I've done, and obviously for the future, should I well, if I do ever adjust settings, I'll make another settings video, right? But for this, I am using 56, right? So turned up to 56, and that is where, again, I get, to my liking, some of that extra vibrance and color. Now, with all of that, then the last thing obviously here is the monitor settings. So I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm obviously this, it's a little bit awkward with my microphone, how I have this set up to do this. So you're probably gonna see it a little bit here on screen, but it's just so I can actually get the monitor here. So in the monitor settings, again, with HDR on, want to note that I am using the Gamer 1 profile here for game mode, just like with the 2024 model. What is cool is the personalized picture is an option here. Now this leverages an app on your phone. I personally haven't played around with this yet, but again, I just prefer Gamer 1 overall. I probably will play with it at some point. Now the next mode here is dual mode. Now of course this is off for full wide. This is where you'll go in and make adjustments for console gaming if you happen to do that. Maybe if you caught one of my PS5 videos, this is what I'm using when I set this to off. The second option off, but 16 by 9 37 inch. That is equivalent basically to it's what is it? It's a 37 inch 4K monitor, right? 16 by 9 image. Now adaptive sync on, this is the default setting. Black stabilizer, here's another one. I turned this down to 35. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think I had this on 35 or 40 on last year's model. Could be wrong, but again, this is 35 here. All of these still set to default. Now, you have your picture adjust. Brightness is turned up to 100. Peak brightness set to high. Sharpness I've kept at 50. And then last but not least, color temperature, which I have set to medium here. Okay, now I'm going to back out of this because I do want to show real quick turning HDR off. Now, this was a thing with the 2023 and 2024 model where the SDR picture settings on your monitor would show or would kind of move forward, so to speak, when you turn HDR on. So I just want to show that real quick. So that's for the picture settings of contrast, which I believe the default is 70. I didn't change this, but pretty sure I didn't change this. Yeah, so but either way, this is at 70. And gamma is on mode 3. Now I believe the default is mode 1. Just want to show that as well. I have this on mode 3, but just remember this. Make these adjustments in SDR and then turn HDR back on. You won't be able to adjust them again, but it does seem that they carry over, again, similar to the older models. So with that, bring that out. And I mean, in my case, I always leave HDR on, so I'm going to turn it back on. Now, with all this, right, hopefully, that's really kind of it. That's and I certainly hope this helps. I do want to note at the time of recording of this video, so I have this connected through DisplayPort to my RTX 4090. Now, the 4090 does not support DisplayPort 2.1. With that said, there are issues. Well, they should be updated on the NVIDIA end, but there's issues with DisplayPort 2.1, I guess giving some people some black screens if you have a 50 series card in particular. Just want to note that because the way to get it work that, I mean, I have to use 1.4 because for the RTX 4090, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't support 2.1, but just want to note that if you are someone with a 50 series card and maybe you've had issues or you're curious if you'll have issues with 2.1, 1.4 works just fine. You change that in the monitor settings. I'll actually just bring it up real quick. If you come down to general, gotta go all the way, almost all the way down here. You can change input compatibility version. Again, 2.1 will be where it defaults for DisplayPort, but switch to 1.4. Obviously, it'll be using display stream compression, DSC. But again, this will solve those issues with DisplayPort. Like to remind everyone, by the way, that this is also a setting for HDMI. So if you plug in HDMI, and this is maybe just in your own experimentation, there is input compatibility versions for that you can change as well. Highly unlikely, I think, that you'll find yourself playing with that. But I just want to go ahead and note it, just if perhaps it's a setting anyone has overlooked on this model or on previous years, because that is an option for those two. Now, with that is it for my settings here. And yeah, I do hope these help. Like I said, I'll always do a settings video if I decide to adjust anything, but if there are no other new videos, right, then that means I'm still just running with these settings. And yeah. Now with that, I'm going to end this video here. I appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, especially if you have questions about anything. And yeah, again, I appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget that like button and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.